This video, me and my team covered an important issue that may impact the rest of our lives and potentially have devastating effects on the way we live. That's this, and this as well. In fact, over the past few years, global warming has emerged as one of the most diverse and important issues in recent memory. Today we study one of the things we can do to seriously alter our increasing danger: our usage of energy. By the way, only a small percentage of our viewers are actually subscribed, so if you end up enjoying the video, feel free to subscribe. It's free and you can always unsubscribe. Enjoy the video. Over time, it's become clear that our planet is falling apart due to global warming. The leading factor stated in the slow destruction of our planet is due to the excessive amounts of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases into the air, slowly trapping heat and warming of our planet. The reason we have carbon dioxide intoxicating the air is because of the burning of fossil fuels such as coal and oil. It's a very complicated and confusing topic. We humans have tried to reverse our mistakes by slowly replacing fossil fuels with alternative energy sources, such as electricity, but is this enough change? We have used fossil fuels for a long time, and in doing so, we have left a significant impact on our planet. Will the change to alternative energy be enough to save our home? Will it be possible to let go of a multi-century-old energy source? And will oil companies that make fortunes off fossil fuels be willing to let go of their old ways and adapt? Richard Henberg, MA, Senior Fellow at the Post-Carbon Institute, stated in his February 22, 2016 article titled 100% Renewable Energy, What Can We Do in 10 Years, published by Yes Magazine. It will take 3 decades to completely leave behind fossil fuels, but we can do it. The transition will entail costs, not just money and regulation, but also changes in our behavior and expectations. It will probably take at least 3 or 4 decades and will fundamentally change the way we live. Nearly everyone agrees that the easiest way to kickstart the transition would be to replace coal with solar and wind power for electricity generation. The collective weight of these challenges and opportunities suggests that a truly all-renewable economy may be very different from the American economy we know today. The renewable economy will most likely be slower and more local. It will probably be a conserver economy rather than a consumer economy. It will also likely feature far less economic inequality. But is 30 years too much time for us to save the planet? Will it be too far gone by then? And for people who exploit fossil fuels, will giving up the most profitable resources in the world ruin the industry forever? Michael Clare, a professor of peace and world security studies at Hampshire College, also reinforces the idea that complete abandonment of fossil fuels will not just happen overnight, but will take hard work, dedication, and cooperation from all over the world. Like Henberg, she's almost certain that renewable energy is in our future. Alfred W. Crosby, PhD, Professor Emeritus of History, Geography, and American Studies at the University of Texas at Austin, stated the following in a June 19, 2009 email to procon.org. Alternative sources of energy can become a satisfactory substitute for fossil fuels if we put as much effort and genius into the effort as we did in producing the first atomic bomb. The most satisfactory single alternative would be hydrogen fusion, but that quasi-miracle may be beyond our capability. We may discover that wind, solar, biomass, etc., all piled on top of each other may have to do, but their success may turn out to require an effort that started a generation ago. Essential to any and all success is the realization on our part that we may be able to do anything, which includes fail. What Crosby is really saying is that we are fighting a war against ourselves, and in the long run, us and our planet won't survive. So if we put the same devotion and effort in saving our planet as we did for the atom bomb, then we might just be able to save our planet, although not without hitting a couple bumps along the way. As stated before, switching to renewable energy would prevent heavy damage to our planet, with tons of disasters and damage being averted. According to the National Resources Defense Council, a nonprofit dedicated to advocating for nature, fossil fuels can inflict tons of damage with effects including but not limited to land degradation, ocean acidification, water pollution, emission, and others. Use of fossil fuels also furthers global warming and global warming-related dangers, such as an increase in severity of storms. According to the UN General Assembly President Maria Fernanda Espinosa Garcias in 2018, we only have 11 years to prevent irreparable damage to our planet. At the time the uploading of this video, that leaves us only 9 years left. Limiting our use of fossil fuels can greatly help progress our fight against climate change, with coal being responsible for creating 9% of US methane emissions and 1% of greenhouse gases. That's just coal by itself, not including other fossil fuels, proving that a big change can be made if we transition to renewables. Many scientists agree that once in place, renewable energy sources will create an abundance of cheap energy. Though initial installation and transition will provide some problems and be pricey, the end result will outweigh all of this. In addition to this, renewable energy sources do not have the aforementioned additional harmful effects that fossil fuels have, and in adding the price of these effects clearly is outweighed by renewables. Renewables energy can be especially effective if certain types are harvested in areas where they are abundant. According to the president of the Institute for Energy and Environmental Research, Arjun Bakajani, wind energy resources in 12 Midwestern and Rocky Mountain states could produce around 2.5 times the electrical energy currently produced in the US. This statement was made in 2007, so it is possible that more energy is being produced in the US. Thought the potential of energy created by renewables is likely to be far greater. Another thing to consider is the potential for solar energy in the western states, such as California and Arizona, where the sunlight is abundant for the majority of the year. If used to our advantage, different types of renewable energy used together could possibly fully replace fossil fuels, being a cheaper and safer alternative. Another thing to mention is how renewable energy will be much cheaper and much more powerful the more we research into it. As mentioned in the quote by Alfred W. Crosby in one of the previous paragraphs, if we put enough research and effort in renewable energies as we did the atom bomb, we can save our planet in time. With science, there is no limit to what we could develop, so the more we dive into renewables, the better we'll get at harvesting them and using them. Changing mainly to renewables will also allow the US to be self-sustaining in energy and not dependent on other countries. Though the US already produces most of its oil domestically, it is still somewhat dependent on other countries for oil, with about 9.1 million barrels of oil being imported per day in 2019, according to the US Energy Information Administration. With renewable energy, the US could use its abundant natural resources and be basically fully self-sustaining, not having to rely on other countries. This would be a definite gain, especially when relations between the US and oil-exporting countries could be frayed or fractured. Energy independence would also be of utmost importance to national security, as in the event of a war, oil shipments could be impacted by enemies. This would disrupt the ability of the United States or any country's ability to defend itself effectively. It is also good for the economy, as without fuel, the nation cannot function. Fossil fuels and non-renewable energies such as oil are essentially powering nations. They have been doing so for decades, with entire wars fought over these resources. Switching to renewables and clean energy would be extremely difficult, as stated by Robert Lyman, principal at Entron's Policy Research Group Inc., which emphasizes the fact that oil provides for 95% of the demand from the transportation industry. Most of our cars and trucks still run on oil, with only an expensive small number running on electricity. It would be basically impossible to change most of these privately owned cars to electric-powered vehicles in just 15 to 25 years. This doesn't only apply to transportation. In the US, only around 13% of electricity is generated by renewables. Oil and gas are the cheapest options available right now, making it easier for lower-income areas and such. Renewables are still expensive, making it even harder to replace the vast number of non-renewable powered resources and cities. Another problem about renewable energy is to mention that it produces much less energy than fossil fuels. According to Christopher Hellman, the senior editor of Forbes magazine, coal and natural gas create the most energy in the US, with coal alone creating more than 8 times the amount of wind and solar generation combined. He also mentions how, when the demand for renewables go up, the price of coal and natural gas will also become cheaper, giving it another advantage. It is also key to remember that renewable energy is a very region-specific thing, with regions having to have a constant flow of energy, such as constant sun, wind, water flow, etc. And as stated before, these renewable resources don't create nearly as much energy as fossil fuels and non-renewables. Non-renewable energy sources are highly reliable and much more predictable than renewables. This is more apparent when observing what has recently been happening in California. In mid-August, there were multiple temporary electrical blackouts all over the state amid a heat wave. This issue mainly only affected California and not other states in the middle of the heat wave, because most of the Californian power grid is powered by renewable energy such as solar power. The problem is, only a limited amount of solar power can be stored, meaning that on the hot nights, there will be less electricity due to daytime use. California cannot borrow electricity from any other states like normal, since its neighbors are also battling the heat wave. This has led to California shutting off electricity to many households, in weather close or even at a triple digits. Renewable energy in general is also very expensive to install, meaning that a town or state must raise enough money to effectively switch energy sources, and then is only given a limited amount of energy, which would anger many residents. Most renewable energy is also very hard or dangerous to store, making it even harder to implement. The two most prominent renewables, solar and wind energy, are very hard to store, with only a limited amount being kept. This is one of the main problems that cause the Californian blackouts. Renewables such as biomass either have a net loss of energy or a very small net gain. Another thing to mention is that the energy renewables create is electricity, not the kind that can be used in battery packs and heavy equipment. The only way to make fuel like this is through hydrogen from water, which is difficult to store and also dangerous. Renewable energy, as stated before, is too unreliable and produces too little to actually be able to power an entire country alone. Non-renewables, on the other hand, are well equipped, being both reliable and relatively safe. They also can be transitioned to battery packs for cars and heavy equipment. Fossil fuels also have gotten safer over the years, having less impact now than before. According to Christopher Hellman from Forbes magazine, coal has gotten much cleaner environmentally, with it producing less harmful emissions and byproducts during energy extraction than before. If we keep researching fossil fuels, we may be able to find cleaner ways of handling them, reducing our overall climate impact without changing the reliability of abundance of fossil fuels. With enough time, this could become a reality. Global warming is an immediate and serious threat to our environment. The usage of fossil fuels and greenhouse gases have sped up this threat to our planet, and we are now looking to alternative energy sources to save us from this. However, it is controversial whether these alternative sources will be adequate enough to completely replace fossil fuels after a decade or so. Alternative energy is much less powerful and reliable than fossil fuels and may not be to completely make up for the amount of energy we are used to today. But if we do not change how we obtain our energy and power, our planet could face some big problems in just a few years. Many have studied whether renewable energy can effectively replace fossil fuels, and the general consensus is that if it's possible, it will take time, maybe decades, and that may not be fast enough. Renewable energy also produces much less than fossil fuels, and is also harder and potentially even dangerous to store. But even looking at all these calm points, a change in our energy will prevent heavy change to both our planet and our lives. And at the end of the day, it all comes down to how fast we can make this change happen, and if we will have enough time to convert to renewable energy before it's too late. This debate will be heavily contested, and currently, there seems like there is no clear answer. However, please stay up to date with this, as it may impact the rest of your life. Stay safe, and thanks for watching.